Get ready, because in this special video we're going to uncover the 12 behaviors you should never tolerate from anyone. Have you ever felt like someone around you is affecting you more than you'd like to admit? As Stephen R. Covey said, the answer is always within you. How you react to what others say or do is your choice, and only you decide who holds power over your emotions. But don't worry, this video will not only help you identify these behaviors, but also teach you how to take action to protect yourself and set clear boundaries. By the end of the video, I'll reveal the most surprising and common behavior we all tend to overlook and show you how to use it to your advantage to improve your life and relationships. Before we dive in, if you find value in these videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Let's get started. Let's dive into the first behavior. Have you ever felt like your emotions are on a roller coaster and you can't figure out why? That, my friend, could be emotional manipulation at work. Imagine someone having a remote control for your feelings, able to switch on your guilt or turn off your confidence with the press of a button. Sounds like science fiction, right? Yet some people have mastered this skill without you even realizing it. Emotional manipulation is like an invisible poison that seeps into our relationships. It's the art of influencing others' feelings and actions for personal gain. Does that sound familiar? Perhaps you've seen someone wield guilt as a weapon, or maybe you've fallen for excessive flattery followed by impossible requests. But don't worry, you're not alone in this. Even the great Aristotle warned about those who use rhetoric to manipulate emotions rather than appealing to reason. And he was right. Emotional manipulation can wreak havoc on our self-esteem and decision-making. Now pay close attention as we expose some common tactics used by manipulators. Do any of these ring a bell? Emotional blackmail. If you loved me, you'd do it. Constant victimization. Nobody understands me, only you can help. Or gaslighting. You're crazy, that never happened. These tricks are like a magician's sleight of hand, designed to confuse you and make you doubt yourself. But not all is lost. Just as a detective hunts for clues, you can learn to spot the subtle signs of manipulation. Do you feel constant anxiety around a particular person? Find yourself doing things you don't want to, just to keep the peace, constantly doubting your own perceptions. These are red flags you shouldn't ignore. Now get ready to become a master of emotional self-control. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not things that upset us, but our opinions about them." When faced with manipulation, take a deep breath and remember that you have the power to choose your response. Don't react impulsively. Take a moment to assess the situation. It's time to build strong emotional boundaries. Picture yourself constructing a fortress around your heart. The walls are your self-esteem, the moat is your ability to say no, and the drawbridge is your skill to let in only those who truly deserve it. Don't be afraid to communicate your boundaries clearly and stand firm. To wrap up, here's an action plan to free yourself from manipulative relationships. First, educate yourself. Learn about emotional manipulation and its tactics. Second, trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Third, seek support. Surround yourself with people who validate your feelings. Fourth, be brave. Being alone is better than being in bad company. Remember, you are the protagonist of your life, not a supporting character in someone else's story. As psychologist Carl Rogers said, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Accept that you deserve honest, healthy relationships, and you'll see how change starts to unfold in your life. Number 2, the silence that screams. Imagine you're in a dark room and someone turns off the sound. Terrifying, right? Welcome to the world of the silent treatment, where the most powerful weapon isn't what's said, it's what's left unsaid. Silence, when wielded as a weapon, can cut deeper than 1,000 insults. Indifference isn't just the absence of words, it's a form of emotional abuse that can leave lasting scars. Have you ever felt invisible to someone important in your life? That feeling of non-existence can be devastating, but why does it hurt so much? Our brains are wired to seek social connections. When someone ignores us, our internal alarm system goes off. It's like they're saying, "You're not important enough to deserve my attention." And that, my friend, can deal a direct blow to our self-esteem. Why do some people resort to indifference? Sometimes it's a way to gain control. Other times, they simply don't know how to handle conflict. Whatever the reason, the outcome is the same: pain and confusion for the recipient. But all is not lost. There are ways to effectively communicate with someone who's ignoring you. First, acknowledge your feelings. It's normal to feel hurt or angry. Next, find a calm moment to express how you feel. Use phrases like, "When you ignore me, I feel," instead of making accusations. Remember, communication is a two-way dance. Maintaining your self-esteem in the face of indifference is crucial. Remind yourself that other people's behavior reflects more about them than it does about you. Practice emotional self-care. Surround yourself with people who value you, engage in activities that make you feel good, and remind yourself of your positive qualities. And what if none of this works? Sometimes the best strategy is to step back. As psychologist John Gottman once said, contempt is the greatest predictor of divorce. Even if you're not married, this principle applies to all relationships. If the silent treatment persists, it may be time to consider whether that relationship is bringing you more pain than joy. Remember, you deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. Don't let someone else's silence dim your light. You're stronger than you think, and there's a world full of people ready to appreciate all that you are. Are you ready to make your voice heard even in the loudest silence? Number 3, constant criticism. If you thought silence was painful, wait until you meet its noisy sibling, relentless criticism. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have a PhD in finding flaws? Do you feel like every word you say is scrutinized under a microscope? It's like being in a contest where the prize is approval, but the rules keep changing. But let's pause for a moment. Not all criticism is created equal. Imagine criticism as knives. Some are for slicing bread, and some are meant to cause harm. Constructive criticism is like a scalpel in the hands of a surgeon. It helps you improve. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, is like a machete in the hands of a madman. Can you tell the difference? Now let's examine how these verbal daggers affect your confidence and creativity. It's as if each criticism is a brick in a wall, separating you from your dreams. Gradually, you find yourself second-guessing every decision, fearing constant judgment. Your creativity, that bright spark within, starts to dim under the weight of disapproval. But why are some people so critical? Sometimes it's a reflection of their own insecurities. As psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The loudest person in the room is the weakest." Other times, it's simply a bad habit. Whatever the reason, you don't have to be their emotional punching bag. So, how do you respond to unjust criticism without losing your cool? Picture yourself as an emotional aikidoka. Instead of confronting the criticism head-on, you learn to redirect its energy. You can use phrases like, "I appreciate your opinion, but I disagree," or "Thanks for sharing your perspective." Remember, you don't have to accept every criticism thrown your way, but let's not stop there. Let's work on strengthening your self-image in the face of negativity. Imagine your self-esteem as a muscle. Every time you reject unjust criticism, you're exercising it. Practice daily affirmations. Look in the mirror and remind yourself of your positive qualities. It might feel silly, but it works. And what if I told you that you could turn criticism into opportunities for growth? Think of each critique as a seed. Some are weeds, but others, if planted correctly, can grow into beautiful flowers. Learn to filter out the harmful from the helpful. Use valid critiques as stepping stones for improvement, not as verdicts on your worth. To wrap up, I have a challenge for you. Next time you receive criticism, instead of reacting immediately, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, does this critique help me grow, or is it just meant to hurt me? If it's the former, be thankful and reflect. If it's the latter, let it go like a leaf in the wind. Remember, you are the gardener of your mind. Choose carefully which plants you allow to grow. Number 4, control disguised as love. Have you ever wondered if the person who claims to love you is actually controlling you? Today, we'll explore the fine line between care and control and equip you with the tools to navigate this maze without losing yourself. Have you ever felt like someone's love is more like a golden cage? That's possessive behavior in action. Picture a relationship where every message must be answered instantly. Your friendships are constantly questioned, or your decisions always require approval. Exhausting, right? That fatigue is a red flag. Control disguised as love is like a sweet poison. At first, it might feel flattering that someone wants to know everything about you. But over time, that attention turns into a prison. Psychologist John Gottman calls this emotional intrusiveness, one of the main causes of unhappiness in relationships. Let's unmask some subtle signs of control. Does your partner frequently check your phone for your own good? Do they criticize your clothing or your friends? Do they make you feel guilty for spending time apart? These are red flags you shouldn't ignore. Remember, true love gives you wings, not clips them. The impact of control on your personal freedom is like slow, steady erosion. Bit by bit, you find yourself giving up your passions, changing your habits, distancing yourself from friends. Your personal growth stalls because all your energy is focused on pleasing someone else. As Virginia Woolf said, "I cannot exist without you. I am forgetting myself." But all is not lost. You can set clear boundaries without causing conflict. Start by recognizing your own needs. Communicate assertively using phrases like, "I feel," "when you." Don't be afraid to say no or to ask for space. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-care. To build mutual trust in healthy relationships, practice transparency and honesty. Share your feelings, fears, and hopes, but also respect the other person's privacy. Trust is like a delicate plant. It needs space to grow, but also constant care. If you find yourself in a controlling relationship, reclaiming your autonomy might feel daunting. Start with small steps. Take up a hobby you've abandoned, reconnect with old friends, make decisions without seeking approval. Each small act of independence is a victory. To conclude, let's reflect on the balance between closeness and personal freedom. Healthy love is like two trees growing side by side. Their roots intertwine, but each maintains its own space to reach for the sky. Don't be afraid to be yourself in a relationship. As the philosopher Khalil Gibran said, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness." Before we move on to the fifth behavior, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with the bell so you don't miss future videos. By the way, I have a surprise for you. I'm working on my ebook titled Wisdom for Living, and once it's available, I'll send you the link to get it. If you want to be the first to receive it, comment "I love wisdom" below. Let's keep learning and improving our lives together. Number 5. Emotional instability. Have you ever felt like you're on an emotional roller coaster, even though you didn't buy a ticket? That's exactly what happens when you're around someone emotionally unstable. Emotional instability is like unpredictable weather. One moment it's sunny and the next there's a storm. It can show up as sudden mood swings, overreactions, or impulsive behaviors. Imagine your emotional stability as a house of cards. Each time someone close to you has an emotional outburst, it's like a gust of wind knocking it down. Over time, you might feel drained, anxious, or even start questioning your own reality. It's like trying to waltz while your partner is breakdancing. But don't worry. There are ways to maintain your balance amidst this emotional chaos. First, recognize that you are not responsible for other people's emotions. As psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." Apply this to your situation. Accept that you cannot control others' emotions, but you can control your response. Now, let's talk about how to effectively communicate with someone who is emotionally volatile. It's like being a lion tamer. You need calmness, firmness, and a lot of patience. Use phrases like, "I understand you're upset, but I need you to speak to me respectfully," or "I see this is important to you. Can we discuss it when we're both calmer?" Remember, you can't reason with a hurricane, but you can wait for it to pass. Setting healthy boundaries is crucial, but doing so without adding fuel to the drama is an art. Think of your boundaries as a fence. It's there to protect you, not to trap the other person. Be clear and firm, yet compassionate. You might say, "I care about you, but I can't be around when you're yelling. I'll come back when things are calmer." Sometimes love isn't enough and professional help is necessary. If emotional instability is seriously affecting daily life, it might be time to suggest therapy. Approach this from a place of love and concern, not judgment. You could say, "I've noticed you've been struggling to manage your emotions lately. Have you considered talking to someone who can give you tools to feel better?" To wrap up, remember that your emotional well-being is a priority. Create a self-care plan, meditate, exercise, and connect with friends who bring you peace. Cultivate a mindset that allows you to be the eye of the storm, calm in the midst of chaos. Remember, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. Number 6, the blame game. Have you ever felt responsible for someone else's problems? It's like carrying a backpack full of rocks that aren't even yours. Blame is a powerful weapon in the wrong hands, and today we're going to disarm it together. Imagine blame as a pie. There's a slice that belongs to us, personal responsibility, and another that doesn't, toxic guilt. Learning to tell them apart is like developing a refined palate for your emotions. Psychologist Albert Ellis, the father of rational emotive behavior therapy, reminds us that people and things don't upset us. Rather, it's our perception of them that does. Now then, how does unjustified guilt affect our self-esteem? It's like a silent thief that steals pieces of your confidence every night. Slowly but surely, you find yourself doubting your decisions, asking permission to exist. But don't worry. Today you'll learn to install a top-notch emotional security system. Let's share some techniques for identifying and rejecting attempts at blame. First, learn to recognize the typical phrases, "If you loved me, you'd do it." "Look what you made me do." They're like traffic signs on the road to manipulation. When you hear them, it's time to make a turn. Maintaining healthy emotional boundaries is like being the gardener of your own mental Eden. Decide which plants you want to cultivate and which weeds you need to pull out. Don't be afraid to use your emotional pruning shears when necessary. To free yourself from deeply rooted guilt patterns, imagine you're untying knots in a rope. Some will loosen easily, others will require patience and practice. Philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." If you apply this to guilt, you'll see those burdens begin to fade. We'll conclude with a personal affirmation exercise against guilt. Stand in front of the mirror and repeat, "I am responsible for my actions, but not for others' emotions." It's like an invisible shield that will protect you daily. Remember, learning not to carry someone else's guilt doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. As writer Paulo Coelho once said, "When you say yes to others, make sure you aren't saying no to yourself." So, the next time someone tries to hand you their backpack of blame, smile and say, "No thanks, I've got my own and that's more than enough." Number 7, social isolation. If you thought control disguised as love was dangerous, get ready to uncover its more extreme version, social isolation. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to slowly disappear from the lives of their friends and family? It's not magic, it's a dark tactic some use to maintain total control. Social isolation is like building an invisible cage around you. It starts subtly. Perhaps your partner suggests that you skip that gathering with your friends or constantly criticizes your family. Little by little, you find yourself cutting ties with your loved ones, convinced it's for your own good. But the reality is, you're losing your support network, your freedom, and ultimately your identity. Does this sound familiar? This behavior aims to make you emotionally dependent solely on that person, reducing your resources and emotional well-being. It's like someone cutting all your safety ropes while you're balancing on life's tightrope. The result, you become completely reliant on the person isolating you. But all is not lost. Recognizing this pattern is the first step to breaking it. Pay attention to signs such as, does your partner get upset when you spend time with others? Do they control who you talk to or where you go? Do they make you feel guilty for wanting to spend time with your family or friends? These are red flags you cannot ignore. Remember, your relationships with friends and family are like plants that need constant care. Don't let anyone cause them to wither. Actively nurture your connections, even if it's difficult at first. A phone call, a message, a surprise visit. Every small act counts. Your support network is your lifeline in tough times. Number 8, subtle sabotage. Relational sabotage is like an invisible poison that contaminates your relationships. It happens when someone, either consciously or unconsciously, tries to hinder your personal or professional progress. Have you noticed that a certain person always has a negative comment about your plans? Or maybe someone close to you seems uncomfortable when you share your achievements. The ways someone can sabotage your success are as subtle as they are dangerous. It could be that friend who always has a reason why your new project won't work, or that family member who downplays your accomplishments with a simple, "You got lucky." It's as if they're placing stones in your path, hoping you'll stumble. But why would someone do that? The roots of sabotaging behavior often run deep into insecurity and fear. Perhaps your success makes them feel inadequate, or they fear being left behind as you move forward. It's as if your bright light makes them feel they're standing in the dark. To protect your goals and dreams from these negative influences, you need to build an emotional shield. You know what? Very few people know I have this YouTube channel. If I count on both hands, I'd have fingers left over. Why? Because I only share it with those I know will support me. I don't want pressure or distractions. It's something I'm proud of, but I don't want it to define me. Try that. Don't share your plans until you've achieved them. Once the results speak for themselves, it will be hard for anyone to sabotage them. Maintaining motivation in the face of others' negativity is like sailing in rough waters. You need a strong anchor, your self-belief. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who push you forward rather than hold you back. Create a success journal where you note your achievements, no matter how small. It will be your compass on cloudy days. When you face sabotage, remember that assertiveness is your best ally. You don't need to attack, but you shouldn't stay silent either. You can say something like, "I appreciate your concern, but I trust my ability to achieve this." It's like setting a clear but respectful boundary. To conclude, think of your support circle as a garden. Nurture and water the relationships that help you grow, and don't be afraid to prune those that only bring shade to your life. Remember, success isn't a finite pie. There's enough for everyone. Surround yourself with people who understand this, and you'll see your dreams flourish, free from subtle saboteurs. Number 9. The inability to apologize. Have you ever noticed that some people seem incapable of saying, "I'm sorry," no matter how big their mistakes are? It's like they have an allergy to apologies. Today, we'll dive into the fascinating world of absent apologies and explore why they are so important for maintaining healthy relationships. Imagine relationships are like a garden. Apologies are the water that keeps the plants of trust and mutual respect alive. Without them, the garden slowly withers. But why are some people so reluctant to water this garden? The psychological reasons behind the inability to apologize are varied. Some people see it as a sign of weakness. Others fear losing control or confronting their own mistakes. It's like they have an invisible shield that prevents them from saying those simple words, "I'm sorry." But the lack of apologies comes at a high price. It erodes trust like the tide wears down a rock. Slowly, mutual respect crumbles and relationships become fragile. Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if no one ever apologized? Not all is lost. You can foster emotional responsibility in others. Start by being an example. When you make a mistake, admit it openly. Show that apologizing doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. It's like opening a door that invites others to do the same. But what do you do when you don't get the apology you deserve? It's like waiting for a train that never arrives. Instead of staying at the station, move forward. Accept that you can't control the actions of others, only your own. Communicate how you feel without accusing. "When X happened, I felt Y." Learning to forgive without receiving an apology is a gift you give yourself. It's like releasing a balloon that weighed you down. You don't do it for the other person, you do it for your own peace of mind. Remember, forgiveness doesn't justify what happened, it simply frees you from carrying it. Sincere apologies have an incredible healing power. They are like a balm for emotional wounds. When you offer them, you not only heal the other person, but you also heal yourself. Putting your ego aside and admitting your mistakes opens the door to incredible changes in your life. Let me tell you something personal. Recently, I broke a mirror at a friend's house. A large insect, something like an Asian bee, had entered, and when I tried to swat it away, I hit the cabinet glass with the broom. Sounds pathetic, right? It is. But instead of making excuses, I explained what happened, took responsibility, called a glazier, and paid for the damage. Being responsible for your actions will always help you grow. Remember, apologizing will never be a sign of weakness. It is an act of courage that shows your inner strength. The next time you make a mistake, don't hesitate to say, "I'm sorry," and act to correct it. You'll see how those simple words can transform your relationships and your life. Number 10, constant comparison. Have you ever felt like nothing you do is enough for someone? It's like you're in an endless race where the finish line moves further away with every step you take. Today, we will dive into the world of constant comparisons and learn how to free ourselves from that mental trap that makes us feel like we're never enough. First, it's crucial to understand why some people tend to compare constantly. Often, it's a reflection of their own insecurities and fears. It's as if by pointing out the faults in others, they can cover up their own emotional holes. But remember, you are not responsible for filling anyone else's voids, only your own. Comparison can be a powerful tool, but only when used correctly. It's like a knife. In the right hands, it can create culinary masterpieces. In the wrong hands, it can cause harm. The key is to compare yourself to yourself, your past self, and your present self. Ask yourself, have I grown? Have I learned? Am I closer to my goals? Remember, everyone has their own pace in life. Some people find the love of their life at 20, others at 30, or even later. Some buy a house at 25, others at 40. There is no universal timeline for success. Your path is unique, so stop looking at others' clocks and synchronize yours with your own dreams. Now, how do these constant comparisons affect our self-esteem and motivation? It's like each comparison is a small hammer hitting our confidence. Over time, these blows can leave deep cracks in our self-image. But don't worry. Today you will learn how to build a shield against these impacts. It's essential to distinguish between healthy inspiration and toxic comparison. Inspiration lifts you up, motivates you to be better. Toxic comparison drags you down, making you feel inadequate. When you see someone else's success, instead of thinking, "Why can't I be like that?" ask yourself, "What can I learn from this?" To value your own achievements and unique qualities, start a gratitude journal. Every day, write down 3 things you've accomplished, no matter how small. It's like planting seeds of self-esteem that, over time, will grow into a forest of confidence. When you face unfair comparisons, respond assertively. You can say something like, "I appreciate your opinion, but my path is different from others." It's like setting a clear but respectful boundary. Remember, you don't need to justify yourself to anyone other than yourself. To cultivate an abundance mindset, imagine success as the sun. It shines for everyone. The success of others does not diminish your chances of triumph. In fact, it can light the way for you to shine too. We'll conclude with an exercise of self-appreciation. Take a piece of paper and write down 10 unique qualities you possess. Then, set 3 personal goals based on those qualities. This will help you focus on your own growth rather than comparing yourself to others. Remember, you are a unique and irreplaceable being. Don't let comparisons cloud your inner shine. Your only competition is yourself, so focus your energy on being better every day, at your own pace and on your own path. Number 11, constant victimhood. Constant victimhood is like an invisible anchor that keeps us tied to the past and prevents us from moving forward. Imagine someone who always has an excuse for everything. "It's not my fault. Life is unfair to me. Everyone is against me." Does this sound familiar? These people have perfected the art of evading responsibility, blaming everything and everyone except themselves. But why do some people adopt this attitude? Psychology teaches us that victimhood can be a form of emotional protection. By blaming external factors, we avoid facing our own fears and weaknesses. It's like using an invisible shield against the pain of failure or disappointment. However, this behavior comes at a high cost. People who surround themselves with chronic victims often feel emotionally drained. It's like trying to fill a bottomless pit with your energy and goodwill. That's why it's crucial to take care of your social circle. As Jim Rohn said, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. What can you do if you have someone like this in your life? First, set clear boundaries. Don't become their personal therapist or emotional lifeline. Second, encourage the person to take responsibility for their actions. You can say something like, "I understand that the situation is difficult, but what do you think you could do to improve it?" Remember, your attitude determines your altitude in life. Surrounding yourself with positive and proactive people can elevate your own potential. Don't let the pessimism and negativity of others drag you down. Instead, seek inspiration from those who face challenges with determination and optimism. In summary, constant victimhood is an emotional trap that prevents us from growing and moving forward. Recognizing it is the first step in freeing ourselves from its toxic influence. Are you ready to take control of your life and leave the excuses behind? The power is in your hands. Number 12. Intermittent interest. Interest has legs, says the saying, but what happens when those legs only run toward you when they need something? Discover how to identify and handle people who only seek their own benefit in this fascinating section on authentic relationships. Have you ever felt more like an ATM than a friend? That uncomfortable feeling is no coincidence. We're talking about the 11th toxic behavior you should never tolerate. Self-interested people who only approach you when they need something. Imagine this, your phone rings. It's that person who hasn't spoken to you in months. Suddenly they want to catch up. But surprise, it turns out they need a favor. Sounds familiar, right? This behavior is more common than you think, and it has a name: utilitarian friendship. The philosopher Aristotle spoke about this more than 2,000 years ago. He distinguished between friendships based on pleasure, utility, and virtue. Guess which one is the most enduring and satisfying? Exactly the latter. But why do some people act like this? Psychology gives us some clues. Often these people have low self-esteem or a deep fear of rejection. They use this tactic as a way to feel valuable or needed. Ironic, isn't it? Now, how should you deal with this? First, recognize the pattern. If someone only shows up when they need something, it's time to pay attention. Second, set clear boundaries. Don't be afraid to say no. Remember, your time and energy are valuable. Third, and perhaps most importantly, cultivate reciprocal relationships. Look for people who are there for you both in good times and bad. As writer Jim Rohn said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose wisely. Don't forget that this doesn't mean you should cut ties with everyone. Sometimes an honest conversation can change the dynamic. Explain how you feel. Give the opportunity for improvement. But if nothing changes, remember it's okay to distance yourself. In summary, value yourself. You are not a resource to be exploited. You are a person to be appreciated. And if someone can't see that, maybe it's time to show them the door. After all, as Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. If you've made it this far, type, "I'm worth so much" in the comments, and I'll know who the winners are that made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content like this in the future. Share this video with anyone who might find it useful, and consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Link in the pinned comment. Now, I recommend you watch one of these 2 videos to keep learning about Stoicism and human psychology. A big hug, and see you next time.